Hey, book friends, it's Caitlin and Tishka here from Spill the Reads. Welcome to a special festive Halloween video. Today I'm going to be talking about some short and spooky book recommendations while kind of tinkering around with some seasonal crafts. This is actually going to be part one of another video where I'm going to actually carve a pumpkin and then make something edible out of it, and also talking about like quirky book recommendations. So in this one, it's mostly novellas, and then in the next video, it'll be like full on like weird spooky books. So we'll see. Maybe if I say it out loud, it's more likely to happen. Tishka's getting comfortable on the couch. So yeah, I'm just gonna start designing what I might carve into my pie pumpkin that will hopefully turn into a delicious pie come Thanksgiving. All right. So let's talk about some spooky novellas. Here we go. I have around 8 different books that I want to share. Are you coming back? Are you coming back? Where are you going? You want to climb on me? Okay. Well, Tishka has decided to join us. I think he's pretty curious about our pumpkin. Last year, we actually carved a butternut squash. I'll share a picture. This was like maybe a month or two after we adopted Tishka. And so he was like, who are these weird people? And why are they doing like weird things with vegetables? Okay, so our book, A Devil Comes to Town. This is a book that takes place in a small Swiss village. And we have this priest who's come to work at this small church in this town. And when he gets there, he realizes that this whole town, everyone is an aspiring writer, from like the butcher down to like children who are like writing like children's stories. Everyone is just obsessed with writing. And one day, this like hotshot publisher shows up in the town, and he says that he's going to make like a writing competition, and whoever writes the best story is going to be published. And so the whole town kind of starts going crazy. Like they all start like hating each other, just like blind for um, having the chance to be recognized as like a published author. And so they're all like, he's like pitting them against each other. And the only person that sees that this publisher is like the devil in disguise is this priest character. And so it's very short, but like surprisingly, a lot of things end up happening. Like there's kind of a twist that I did not see coming. It's a very unique story. I will just say, I think because it's translated from Italian, sometimes the language can be a little bit clunky, but still a good story. It kind of feels like a fable. And yeah, I just haven't really heard anyone talking about this book. So I would be curious, like, if any of my friends have read it, like, what they thought of this story. Okay, I've already changed my design. I think I'm now going to not cut off the top, but I will end up cutting from the back, and I'm going to outline like a large dog head and then put some holes like for the eyes and mouth and stuff. So we're going to try again. And I'm going to tell you about Mrs. Caliban from 1982. This is written by Rachel Ingalls, and it's 128 pages long. This is like a really cute romantic-y kind of sci-fi book about a very depressed housewife. She and her husband like lost their child, and they are just completely miserable, but haven't like gotten divorced. And she hears on the radio that this like 6'7" frog monster has just escaped from the like scientific institute in town, and they say that it's like really dangerous. And one night she's like cooking dinner, and the frog monster like shows up in her kitchen, and she is just like so beaten down by all the terrible stuff that's happened to her. And so she's like, hey, what's up? Yeah, like you can stay here. And she ends up like helping this frog monster, who she learns has been like tortured, and they end up like um, getting to know each other, and it ends up being kind of like a love story. Like this frog monster is really misunderstood, and he's actually like this like really kind soul. He's sensitive, and he likes to do housework and listen to classical music, and it is just such a charming story. And a lot of things end up happening like at the end that just kind of blew my mind. Like all good things must come to an end. But this is just a really cute story that I would think would resonate with a lot of people. Anyway, that's Mrs. Caliban. Let me know if you have read it or if you have similar book recommendations. All right, we've got the outline of our dog head. I don't know how well you can see. Anyway, let's talk about a book that I know will be really hard to swallow for most people, but it's just one of these books that like sticks with you. It's really kind of out there. It's called Walking Practice by Dolki. This was translated from the Korean by Victoria Caudle. It was published in 2023 and it's 166 pages long. This is about an alien that crash lands on Earth, and it doesn't have a gender. I think they just call it Mumu or something. And this alien, in order to survive, like it has to eat, and it has discovered that the tastiest thing to eat on Earth is humans. And so what it does is it goes on dating apps and it like changes its body in order to look like attractive to um, the opposite sex. Like sometimes it turns itself into a man, like, and sometimes it turns itself into a woman, just like depending on who it's trying to match with, like on apps. And they meet up, they get it on, and then Mumu eats these people. It is very like it's disturbing, but it's also really funny, and I love the way that the alien like talks about like um I guess just like men trying to look really strong and masculine and like women trying to look really feminine. Like it just really makes you think about how we choose to present ourselves and what like society thinks is like an attractive feature. And this alien is just like so hungry and tired and just trying to eat. And it's just such a weird, cool story. It is really violent, so if you like horror books, check it out, but I wouldn't like recommend it lightly to other people because it was really like even hard for me to swallow, but at the same time I was like so just like hooked in this like weird little story. So anyway, that is Walking Practice by Dolki. What do you think? Does it look like you? Oh, baby. All right, guys, let's talk about our next book, which is My Sister, the Serial Killer. I read this a few months ago. I actually listened to it as an audiobook, and I highly recommend that format because the narration is really good. It is 226 pages, originally published in 2018, written by Oyikan Braithwaite. This is set in Nigeria, and it's about this nurse, and her sister is a serial killer. She keeps killing her boyfriends, and her sister always has to like come in and like clean up the mess after. And so you're just like reading about how she's like struggling to, should she take care of her sister or like turn her in. And the thing is that like the serial killer sister starts like dating the protagonist like perfect guy like at the hospital, this doctor. And so you really just see like, oh my gosh, who is she going to choose, her sister or like the doctor? It's really dark and funny. I was just really charmed by this book. And whenever I can get into a book that's like really short, like the characters are still developed really well, I think that this is really impressive since it's like just over 200 pages. So I highly recommend this book. I know this author has just come out. She has a new book coming out in 2026. I think it's called Cursed Daughters. So I'll definitely pick up more books by her. Up next, I have The Night Guest by Hildur Knútsdóttir. made sure to like write out the pronunciation of her name. So this came out in 2021. It's 197 pages, and this has to be one of the scariest books I have ever read. And I always say this, like, since I read this as an ebook, like I didn't know when the book was going to end because I didn't like check how many pages it was. And so when it just like ended really abruptly, I was so shocked because I could have just like kept reading this book uh, many times over. It was so good. It's about a woman who is um, waking up with all of these injuries, like cuts and bruises. She's so tired and she doesn't know why. So she gets like one of these tracker watches and finds that she's been like going out and walking like tons of steps every single night. And she's like trying to figure out what she's doing at night. So it's very, very creepy and dark. I highly recommend. Like, I just that this is just like the wildest ending ever. If you're really sensitive about animals, like in particular cats, you might want to avoid this one. But I just thought that this book was so good. And I know that she has some new books being translated to English. So I will pick up like anything else by this author because I was just like so hooked on this dark, mysterious, like funny writing. And it's cool to read something set in Iceland. Ha! Okay, we have some eyes, and let's talk about Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. Originally published in 1968. It's 229 pages. That's what my ebook was. I read this last year, and surprisingly, it really is terrifying. I thought that maybe because I'm familiar with the movie, I know what happens, it wouldn't be that scary, but it really is a terrifying book. So I think you're probably familiar with it since it's so popular, but um, Rosemary and her husband, they're like this young married couple in Manhattan, and she ends up getting pregnant, but like her pregnancy feels very strange. Like she just feels like crap and she has all these weird symptoms, and everyone around her is like assuring her that she's fine. They're kind of like gaslighting her. And what is just like scary and enraging is just like seeing how everyone treats her, like her doctor, her husband, her neighbors. Like they're all like, it's fine, do this, do this. And you're just like watching her struggle, and you know that something terrible is going to happen when she gives birth. And it really is a scary book, short and scary. I will say that it is kind of hard to read a book that talks about Black people in such a terrible way. Like, and I'm not just talking about the word choice, but even just like uh, the way that like the Black characters are all like basically servants in the book, and she just like doesn't treat them very well. That just reads very awkwardly in 2025. But other than that, it still is a really scary book if that's like what you're looking for this Halloween. I'm trying to decide how I would do like a dog snout and mouth. I'm just going to do that later. And I'm going to show you what I also hope to crochet this fall/winter. So I have a lot of green yarn, and I've been wanting to make kind of like a bonnet that kind of wraps around like a scarf. This is embarrassing. I can't draw, but something that kind of looks like that. So we'll see if I can finagle my yarn into looking cute. And I'll tell you about my next short and spooky book, which is Victoria Frankenstein. This is the first of the Dread Legacies series that just came out in September. This book is 216 pages, and let me be straight up, I got this for free from the publisher. They just sent it to me. And so this is like not sponsored or anything, but I did get to read this book for free. It is a feminist retelling of Frankenstein, but instead of Victor, it's Victoria. And this is like the last ancestor of the Frankenstein line. It's set in the 1800s. And Victoria is alone in her German castle, and she is also like a woman of science. And she decides to like bring someone back from the dead, but it doesn't really go expected to plan. It turns into an angry monster, and she spends the book like running away from this monster that is trying to catch up with her. And no matter like where she goes, it always finds a way to catch up with her. So it's a little bit scary, but there is kind of like a different meaning for like what this monster wants from her, and I really enjoyed that. I'd say the themes are like about motherhood, birth and death, like child abandonment. It's an interesting story. It's very gothic, and I don't really read like books that have like old language in them. Like I prefer contemporary language that feels like the real way that people talk. So that's like the only thing that was kind of hard for me to read with this book, because they're like saying using just like old archaic kind of terms. But I think if you like that kind of gothic style, you would absolutely love this writing. But yeah, I did enjoy this story, so I would recommend it. I'm going to share one more short and spooky book recommendation, and then we'll get to the bonus. So let's talk about Strange Houses by Uketsu. This is a short kind of puzzle book that shows you weird blueprints of different houses in Japan, and they are at the center of a like mystery that the characters are working through. And so you're kind of playing detective, like looking at these blueprints and seeing like what is weird in the house and how that could like solve this mystery. It is very strange and dark, and you're seeing the theories that the characters are coming up with in the house, and they're just really unbelievable. And so that was like my motivator for finishing this book, because like I had to know uh, if this would be true or not. But just really out there, kind of cool. I think I'm going to try his other book, Strange Pictures, next. So anyway, let's talk about the bonus, which is a spooky novella that missed the mark for me. But I still want to talk about it because I haven't talked about it on my channel yet. And just because it wasn't a success for me, it's so weird and niche that I still want it to find its rightful audience. So that would be Vampires at Sea by Lindsay Merbaum. So this is about these vampires that decide to go on like a queer vacation cruise in the Black Sea. And they're like, oh, this is the perfect way to like feed on people. And it turns into like this whole like soap opera. Like basically they break up, and they're called like Rebecca and Hugh, and Hugh starts dating someone else on the cruise, and so Rebecca is just like really heartbroken. And so it turned into more of like this like weird soap opera, and I thought it would be a lot more like fun vampire craziness. But just it's such a weird idea that I think can maybe appeal to some people. So if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead and check it out. But yeah, that's the end of the book recommendations for this video. But stay tuned for the next part, where we will be carving this here pumpkin and saving some of the flesh and roasting it so I can turn it into edible holiday food. And then I'll be sharing some quirkier book recommendations. Halloween is just around the corner, so I hope you guys enjoy these themed videos. Tishka and I will catch you in the next one. Hi, baby. You see that? You see that? That's your head. Huh? I'm gonna carve